So are we masks optional?
Oh, well, yeah, I need to ask Rick what he wants us to do.
The board lifted the mandate.
Yeah, they did. Well, that was only applied to schools anyway,
Yeah.
right?
But that, with where the numbers are in our schools, that means all of them are gonna be masks optional.
Yeah. I need to find out what Rick wants to do with the.
Because you're not wearing yours, I mean. Nobody was here.
I know it's here. I did start the live recording already, Rob. No one's watching.
Did I talk to you about that? When I went back and watched one of the live recordings?
Don't think so.
One of the recordings? It was recording before you thought you had, because you came in and said, okay, I'm going to start the live recording, but it had actually recorded the conversation before that.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Huh, I wonder when that.
I forget which one I was watching, but you had been recording for a while, there was conversation, then you go, okay, I'm going to start the live recording. I'm like, I wonder if he knows.
It wasn't when I start the video conference recording, was it?
Maybe it was.
Because there's two of them, you know, I record the GoToMeeting and the YouTube thing. Yeah, I have to start, for some reason, I can't start the YouTube recording from this anymore. I used to be able to. So I just hit it when the meeting starts. But now I kind of have to do it before because I'll forget.
Oh, so the YouTube one starts from
I have to
here?
start it from there, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I have you start doing that.
That may be where, because you were punching something up there saying you were starting it, so maybe it was the GoToMeeting when.
Yeah, when I do the GoToMeeting, there's an announcement. That female voice announces that. But the YouTube meeting doesn't. There's no announcement.
So the HHR didn't make it out of the driveway initially.
Oh, no?
Well, our backhoe's down, and that was our main plow.
Oh, yeah.
It threw a rod, so basically we just drive over it.
8 inches and then drifts and yeah.
That's where the weight of the Suburban, even though it's rear wheel drive, the heavier weight,
yeah.
bigger
and
tires.
better clearance.
Yeah, and the clearance.
Yeah. I had to help my neighbor dig out. My street, like I live on this curve, and every time, I'm on the inside of the curve, and the city plows, every flake goes the other way, and I always feel bad. So yeah, my neighbor got stuck.
Go take that mass required sign down.
Yeah, could you, Rob?
We're optional tonight.
I meant to ask him, we talked earlier.
We'll have any.
I don't think so, but we're prepared.
Who knows?
Did I get the word correct?
What?
Or not requiring masks?
Right.
Okay, got it.
Rob's getting the sign down now.
Our auditor
Oh, yeah.
wanting to renew, I think.
Yep. Yep, good. Alrighty. That's funny, because they're coming in next week to get started.
Oh,
Not
really?
too soon on this.
Yeah.
So did you pick up 4-wheel or 2?
It's for, it's, yeah, it's, I don't even change it, it's an automatic setting,
Okay.
so
If the wheel spin, it needs it, it
Yeah.
gets it in. Nice.
yeah. Yeah, it is.
So do we know who's in person and who's remote tonight?
I just heard from Kevin Michael said he'd be remote. I suspect Kevin Ritter and Danny will be remote, and I don't know about
I
Maurice.
suspect Danny,
Yeah,
unless he has somebody he pays to come clear his drive.
it's a long drive.
Uh-huh.
He probably does, I suppose.
With his stamina, I don't see him clearing it all.
Oh, he'd have a machine out there for sure.
How are you doing, Brandon?
Good, yourself?
Good.
Yeah, I only did half my driveway, just like the one lane. I didn't do the whole. Just need to get the
I had
car
my
out.
kids shovel half of our paved area so that we could pull the black Nissan up and pull it into the garage, because I need to replace the headlight on it,
Yeah,
and get the Suburban out.
just enough.
This is odd, and my wife differs in my opinion. My
You
neighbor.
make her shovel it?
No.
Oh,
no,
okay,
No,
okay.
my neighbor, so I have a south-facing driveway. And so I kind of looked at it this morning and looked at the weather and said, it's gonna be 45 degrees tomorrow. So I shoveled enough in case the delivery guy has to come, and enough to
Yeah.
get my wife's car out, because I took
Yeah.
her car this morning, she's got the SUV. And I did that at maybe 2 o'clock. And when I left to come here at about 5:15, my driveway was plowed. And my neighbor had took his snow plow and went across the street. And I was like, the petty person in me is like, why would you do that? But I know he was just trying to be
Being
nice.
nice.
Yeah, I know, he's trying to be
Being
nice.
neighborly.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that Overland Park and that area people don't know, that's a small town.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, if you own a snow blower in these parts, I mean, it's once every 5 years you can actually use that thing.
I
So you
have
wanna
one
get
that's-
out there and use it.
I have one, but it's leaking oil and I haven't chased it down and fired it up in a year. But that's where, for the longest time, I just used our backhoe.
Oh, yeah,
That's throwing the rod, but that was the easy way to do it.
for sure.
When we first moved out here and had that massive snow a couple years later at Christmas,
It's just gonna be you two.
I plowed, dumped it all on the driveway, packed it down, it snowed again, bigger pile, and we actually dug it out and had a 3-room igloo out of it.
Oh,
Where
really?
I just had taken and
Yeah.
from the driveway and just piled it, and I packed it down so it was solid, and then we dug it out. And at the time, Isaac, our number 3 kid, he could stand in the 3rd room of it. The 3rd room was that tall.
It's crazy.
Because
Did you
he was
get a
about this
building
big,
permit
so
for
I
that
mean,
thing?
he could stand inside it, so the 3rd room was at least that tall.
Wow.
Oh, it was.
Hey, Danny, can you hear us? How about a
it still
sound
lives
check?
in their memories.
Yes, Mike, I hear you.
All right.
I'm still a little hoarse, but doing better,
Good, good.
so thank you. How are you doing?
Doing well. Trying to keep our feet warm.
Is everything going good?
Yeah. We had City Hall closed today, but good thing the snow stopped. Everybody's kind of be able to get out and get here.
So did they get ahead of it finally?
Oh, not entirely. They're still out. They probably won't be all caught up till tomorrow afternoon.
We're well ahead of our neighboring cities though.
Yeah, we just make sure we're better than everybody else.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
the
that's
streets
good,
are still
that's
more packed
good.
than they normally are, but.
Hi Rick and hi Kevin.
And the
Danny?
wind kept
Hello.
blowing.
Hey, Danny.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, it's always crazy to drive 83rd, and once you hit Lenexa, man, what a difference.
Yeah, I come in off 83rd, and I can tell where the line is. It's crazy.
They're not supposed to, but I think the guys do that on purpose. They make.
Oh, it's fine if they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, they take pride in that 83rd section.
Yeah, they make sure there's a difference right there.
Yeah, so Eudora canceled yesterday and today, because their parent-teacher conferences were like a week ago.
DeSoto had off today.
It was
And
scheduled
yes,
off today, tomorrow, and Monday
Okay.
anyway.
That's
For
good timing for them.
Parent-teacher conferences, so, yeah, somebody posted in around DeSoto last night, school's been canceled for tomorrow. And I'm looking at that, and it took me a second to go, I haven't even need to, oh, yeah. And it was funny watching the comments of how many people just
Didn't get a text.
well, they didn't catch on to, well, it was planned
Yeah, it was already.
canceled for, not because of the snow, but
Yeah.
For calendar day
Uh-huh.
or something.
yeah, it's parent-teacher conferences, so.
Is that what's,
Mhm.
so they're virtual, are they virtual or?
Yeah, this sucks.
Yeah.
Parent-teacher conferences virtually suck. Especially, we didn't realize it because it's the first time they've been. Apparently the parent-teacher conferences today were with the seminar teacher only at the high school level, not all the teachers, but all the past ones that have been virtual the last year and a half really suck, because all of a sudden you get a Sign Up Genius invite from every single teacher. And it's like, if you have 2 or 3 or 4 kids, it's a nightmare.
So you gotta coordinate between
Oh,
every
yeah.
10 minutes.
Yeah, and you have to, if you're trying to give them a block, it's near impossible.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden it's spreading, it's,
Yeah, that sounds frustrating.
so we have 3 council members right
We have 3 so far, yeah.
We have 4, right? Oh, 3 council members, yeah, you're right.
We have 4's still a quorum, so.
We're 4.
There's Kevin.
All right.
Did Lori respond? Was she going virtual or?
I didn't hear from Lori.
I mean, she had to work all day, so she's already out.
now. Our church pretty much just said, work from home.
Yeah, it was bad this morning.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Most of my friends are teachers, so they had the whole day, they had the day off. Lucky.
I heard a door.
Yep.
That might be worrying. Or just some random person walking.
Could be.
We're not live yet.
Yeah, the YouTube stream is going.
Okay.
There's one current viewer. I don't know if it's me or not. Hi, Lori.
Hello, Mike.
Hey,
Brennan.
how are you?
Good.
Good.
Hi. Do I sign in?
Kathy. Yeah.
Hey. Oh, I forgot to sign in
She
sheet.
needs a
Hey,
sign-in
Brenda.
book.
There's something I forgot. Sorry.
How are you,
How are
Rick?
you?
Good.
Hey, Rob, I saw that. Did you see that X-rated picture he put on there on Facebook today? Jesus Christ, buddy.
Jesus, Joseph, and Mary.
I wouldn't go.
My wife talked me into it.
That was cute.
Out in the snow in our swimsuits.
Oh,
Swimsuits.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Well,
How are you?
you might not see 11 inches of snow again.
I titled it, anybody up for a polar bear plunge?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I thought, oh.
Because the pond wasn't frozen over, could have. Yeah, no.
How close to the beginning am I?
The
Mike was
art
gonna-
thing?
Yeah, no, the historical thing.
We got you on consent agenda
So I'm
from
early.
the historical.
You're
Society.
first. You're
Yeah.
right off the
Okay,
bat.
Mike's outside in the car because he
Which means
drove
you
me.
don't
Oh,
even
yeah.
have to say anything. You
Yeah.
just-
Yeah, it's consent.
agenda, you
Well,
don't-
Brandon,
Most of them
is that his name? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I thought it was
Yeah,
Brandon.
Brandon.
Yeah. He told me it'd be a good idea if I was here and you saw my,
That way we know you're sincere about your.
I'm so sincere, you wouldn't believe it. Yeah, the only thing would be is there any talk of getting Zoom uptown at all? Are we gonna, I have absolutely no internet.
Really? Yeah. Haven't made contact, touch base with them or RG Fiber in quite a while. I know Zoom's been working pretty extensively along
Yeah,
Lexington.
well, I got it at my house,
Yeah.
84th and Kickapoo.
Yeah.
And it's great, but I don't think I can afford a business thing uptown. But
Oh,
I thought that there was, everybody kept saying they thought that there was some talk of
Yeah, some air.
Well, I know the
Oh.
fire station,
providing.
the fire stations, the RG fibers.
Yeah.
One of
Fiber
our,
to the fire.
Yeah,
There's
but
a
I
bad
bet, I
example
bet,
for our
I bet
kids.
it
One of our
doesn't go
friends-
wide
No,
enough to get.
He's like, we gotta do it. My guys were like, so if one of our friends said jumps off a bridge, we should. I'm like, exactly. See? We still did it.
Yeah.
It was cold.
I bet it was cool.
I didn't go to the level of footprints where they actually laid in the snow and made snow
Did
angels.
snow angels.
Mhm.
Was that today you did that, by the way?
Yeah.
I did that once in college. It's not warm.
Did you do the plunge from the snow to the hot tub?
No, we did it,
Trip?
no, it was just a pool, and you jumped in the pool. You
Yeah,
had to
but
raise
still.
$50.
Yeah, we didn't jump in.
Yeah.
But even then, the snow drifts just on our driveway were bigger.
I know.
It's like, man.
Conference will now be recorded.
Okay. All right. I have 7 o'clock. Call the February 17th DeSoto City Council meeting to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Lane,
Here.
Ritter,
Here.
Hanamichael,
Here.
Daniels,
Here.
Murdoch.
Here.
All are present.
Okay. I would invite you to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first item tonight is our consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have approval of our council minutes from our meeting of February 3rd, approval of the minutes from the Joint Planning Commission and Council Workshop on February 3rd, approval of pay ordinance number 920, approval of donation request from DeSoto Historical Society, and approval of annual maintenance agreement with Thane Palmberg. Is there any item anyone would wish to take off of the consent agenda? Or would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, you're done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Kathy.
And he's got my
Thanks,
receipt.
Kathy, for coming in.
Yeah, who is that?
Danny.
It's Danny. Hi, Danny. Thanks.
Be careful on the way home.
Well, Mike's driving. I got 2 blocks, what, 3 blocks?
All right. Our next item is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter. Is there anyone on the,
No, it's just our group on the
Okay.
on the line. I did, sorry, Mr. Mayor, in your packet, there is actually another pay ordinance. Should have been item 1.5, pay ordinance 920A. It's a payment to the chamber, and it was taken out of consent so that Councilman Ritter could recuse himself. Sorry that got missed on the agenda.
Okay, we do have that.
Yeah.
So now we will take up pay ordinance
9:20.
920A.
20A.
All right, let me recuse myself, Mayor.
Okay. We've
I'll make a
sent,
motion, Mayor, we approve pay ordinance 920A.
Second.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you, sorry about that.
All right. Item 3 is old business. We do not have any, so we'll go to item 4A, discuss purchase of public art piece Native Spirits.
Yeah, Council, Patrick had this item.
Okay?
Yeah, just pretty self-explanatory. It did take a while to get the art piece installed, so the year period as reflected in the memo is several months off. So as I mentioned in the memo, I think it's, fine for you guys to discuss what your intentions are, but we have plenty of time to for you guys to ruminate on that and decide what you want to do. But it would be a $4,000 purchase if that's what you guys want to do.
Okay.
So.
Let's start the discussion. Anyone have any thoughts on purchasing the piece of sculpture? Or?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. I was going back and kind of pulling out my notes on this. I think originally it was maybe going to be a twice a year type thing, and this year, I think they didn't have as many applications to begin with, so we did one of them. And I think from the way I understand it, is that from when we were talking to Linda, it's really time to start looking for another one, because whether we buy this one or not, it's going to go away by August 4th, so hopefully they'll start working on that. I don't think that every year when it's up there, we have it budgeted to budget in to purchase some. But with this being an inaugural one, and I like the piece of art, I would be okay with purchasing it if we felt it was a fair price and the city had it in the budget and could do it. But I just, it's one of those things, as always, don't set a precedent that every piece of art we're gonna purchase.
Right.
Because that's not the intent of it. The intent was to show off different people's artwork, and hopefully a couple of different ones located at different places. Because I think they were gonna stay a whole year no matter what, but kind of staggering it from my understanding, so that there could be up to 2 of them a year, which in our budget would be $4,000. But they would still stay for a year, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So we would actually need it would be like moving them around. So with that being said, also, that if we decide to purchase this one, is where it's at the best place, or do we want to keep that as an option for the next piece of art to display there? So I think there's more to it to think about and look at. We don't want to have to, every piece of art, go pour a new concrete pad and do all of that to display all of them if we have a nice location. But like I said, I like the piece of art. It was a kind of our inaugural kickoff one, and if we could find a nice place, whether outside or inside somewhere to put it, I would be okay with that. So that's all I have to say, I think.
All right. Any thoughts, Rob?
Similar opinion to Lori in that I don't know if we want to be buying every single one and set that precedent, but being that it's the inaugural piece, it's also one that could be inside or outside to where that pad can be freed up. And it's by somebody that is local here, so real similar on that front.
Okay. Kevin, Hannah Michael, any thoughts?
I think Laura's point about that it being the inaugural one is a really good point. I probably wouldn't have been an advocate of purchasing it, but I think that's a really good point, and that we could highlight it as the start of a program, so I support it.
Kevin Ritter?
I think I would just repeat what Kevin said. I really wasn't for it at first, but I was convinced that that it would be nice to have being the first one, so I support it.
Danny?
I agree with Lori. Yeah, it's a great thing that we've got started now. And I knew some people that says, are they going to display it downtown at a different location at another time? And I said, well, there's those possibilities that can be moved around, like Lori said, to another park. Or we could put it in front of Memorial Hall, there, or something like that too. Or we could display it maybe somewhere inside our pool complex out there or something. We got a lot of concrete out there. There's a lot of things that we can do. And then I'm like Lori on the purchase, not saying we're gonna, set a precedence where we're gonna go and do that all the time. And, I think we need to talk it over some more and think about it a little bit more of, the options that we have, and, we don't have to jump on this right away. So it's something we could, it's a good discussion point tonight. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Mike, if we were to purchase this, what budget item would this come out of?
Yeah, we could take, somewhere in the general fund, probably in that admin budget, donations, grants and donations, or, we do have a contingency fund. To answer the question direct, I don't know that it's specified as a particular budgeted item in the 2022 budget. I know that the lease, the $2,000 lease is, but the purchase of those art pieces, I don't think we were specific about. But we could find the room, certainly, if we want to do it, we could certainly find the room in the budget.
Mayor, can I add one more
Certainly.
thing? Just as we're talking about this, I had another idea, and that is that, maybe it's possible too that local businesses may want to purchase it, and so maybe in the future, we might move and see if our contract with the artist would extend to, just say a Hutamaki would purchase one to come in the entrance of their place, or one of the banks would want to. Maybe adding into the contract, that would extend to some business in the community for the same price. Because that might be a way to get some of the art that is on display, if people do like it, that it could be purchased, but kept in the community.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yep, good thought. I like that thought. Okay. Well, we'll take this up again as we get closer, and I guess we'll follow up with the Arts Council as to how they're progressing with selection of the next round of artists. Okay, next item, discuss sales tax referendum.
This is my item. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Currently, the city has in place the 3/4 cent sales tax for capital improvement projects. As you remember, the sales tax generates about $600,000 annually. That sales tax is deposited in the debt service fund, along with 4 mills of property taxes to pay off the outstanding debt related to the capital projects. At the last meeting, Mayor and Council directed staff to provide projections with a reduced tax rate from 1.75 to 1.5. Currently, the combined sales tax rate in DeSoto is 9.73. The numbers are outlined in the agenda item, but DeSoto's portion is 1.75%. On page 2 of the report, I've compared the city's portion of the sales tax with our neighboring communities. As you can see, DeSoto and Eudora are the highest in the area, while Olathe, Shawnee, and Lenexa are significantly lower at around 1.5%. However, it's important to note that most of the surrounding communities are much larger and collect more sales tax. For example, Olathe collected over $3 million in sales tax in January. DeSoto collected about $84,000 in that same time period. The next chart compares DeSoto to small and mid-sized communities in the area, including Baser, Bonner Springs, and Mission, Kansas. If you can see from that chart, we are in line with communities in the area that are approximately our size based on population. The third chart shows how we would compare to our neighbors if we reduce the rate from 1.75% to 1.5%. And on page 3 of the financial impact section, I outline 3 scenarios. Scenario 1 is the baseline scenario. It shows a 3-month gap in revenue for the third quarter of 2022. However, the sales tax remains at its current rate and maintaining the 4.0 of the mills for property taxes. As you can see, the fund balance remains healthy through 2023 and increases through 2024 and 2027. And just a reminder that spike in 2025 through 2027 is largely due to debt falling off the books. Scenario 2 includes a 3-month gap of the 3/4 cent sales tax for the third quarter of 2022, and reduces the rate from 1.75 to 1.5, which would bring the city's, which would reduce the capital projects portion from 0.75 to 0.5, which would bring the total city portion of sales tax from 1.75 to 1.5. As you can see in the chart, the fund balance in the debt service fund is lower than scenario 1, but the fund balance continues to grow with the projection, and the fund balance remains healthy. Scenario 3 would be if the voters do not approve the renewal of the sales tax. In order to keep the fund solvent, even with the added property values, the mill levy would have to increase from 4.0 to 6.5, and the fund balance is significantly lower than the first two scenarios, leaving the fund significantly lower and risking our bond rating and future debt issuances. On page 3, I've outlined a brief timeline, or sorry, on page 4? Page 5, excuse me. I have outlined a brief timeline for a June 21st mail-in election. In this timeline, council would need to approve an ordinance or resolution with ballot language no later than March 17th. The next day, we'd send it off to Johnson County Elections Office, and the ballots would be mailed starting May 31st. From an informational standpoint, there will be informational sessions held at City Hall with informational posts posted on Facebook before the election, before the ballots are sent out to the public. Generally, we're looking at that last week of May, first week of June for both of those sessions. Patrick and I have been working with the county elections office on the ballot language, and we anticipate having final ballot language ready for the March 3rd elections, assuming council comes to a consensus on how they want to proceed. And assuming the ballot measure passes, the city will resume receiving the sales tax at the beginning of the fourth quarter of 2022. So for direction, we're looking for a couple different options. So your options are to direct staff to draft a resolution for renewal of the sales tax at an appropriate rate, direct staff to do additional research on alternative scenarios, or allow the sales tax to sunset, and we'll realign our resources in the capital improvement fund.
All right, so I think we'll tackle it in the two fashions. First of all, I think I'd like to get a feeling for everybody's thought on renewal of the tax, not the amount, just what do we do? Do we believe that renewing the sales tax, or capital improvements is important to our capital improvement program? So I would offer that question and ask for a response.
I would say
Laura?
yes.
Laura says yeah. Rob?
Yeah, I'd say option 3, allowing it to sunset without trying to renew it, is not really
Not an option.
an option. So,
Okay. Kevin Hanemichael?
Yes, I think it's kind of standard practice. It's been in history. I think we need to seek to renew.
Okay. Kevin Ritter?
Yeah, I think it's a necessity to renew this.
Okay.
Since the chair's amount is about the same, so we need to find the money somewhere.
Danny?
Yeah, I'm in favor of renewal, Mayor.
Okay. So I think then you can start the ballot language.
Okay.
We just have to figure out what to put in that blank, right? Whether it's 3/4 or a half. I'll just throw I don't know. I like the idea of being it looks like that we can go to a half without detrimentally impacting our fund balance for debt service. I guess the thing that causes me some concern is we may have some bonding that we need to do that, in somewhere down the road that may be impacted by, that might be easier if we would renew it at the current rate than if we reduced it to 0.5. I would like to see it renewed at a 0.5. Lori?
How, well, maybe it's on here and I just need to study it, but maybe it would be easier just to ask. The lower, if we go to a half, right now, if I'm not mistaken, some of the sales tax, like from Harps, goes back to Harps's TIF type situation.
Yeah.
So how would that affect getting that repaid back? Because in the long run, them getting their TIF done earlier was going to help us also
Certainly,
in the
yeah.
end. So
We
is there
could-
something that would, changing this,
Right.
would affect that whole
So what
scenario?
happens now with any sales tax collected at Harps is it goes into that separate TIF fund and it's paying off those bonds right now. So we don't really see any of it, it's passed through. When those bonds are paid off, and I haven't done any projections as to when that might be, but when those bonds are paid off, then that money will just go into tax revenues, and by default, it would just hit the general fund. We could obviously divert an additional portion over to capital improvements too. There's nothing that says we can't put additional sales tax money in the capital improvements. So yeah, we will see a bump. I wouldn't say that it would be a significant bump. I mean, I think the annual revenues, I mean, off of this, the 3/4 cent gets about $600,000. I think the TIF, Harp's TIF is somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000, I think is as much annually. So, I mean, it may be a notice, you know, we'd see a little uptick, but it wouldn't.
So I guess my question was more of the opposite. If we take away the extra quarter, does it
Will it draw out?
Does it draw it out longer for when it comes off, before that bump up
How does that
comes?
impact the Harps TIF payback?
Oh,
Does it affect
okay.
them,
That
like-
loss of revenue?
So does
Yeah,
it
it
slow
certainly
down
would.
how long they're gonna get the TIF
right.
paid back, which
Yeah.
is, we want them to get that TIF paid back sooner, so then the money comes back to us, but does it really matter, I guess?
Yeah, that's
See what I'm
true.
saying? 'Cause
Yeah, I do, and
it-
I hadn't thought of that before, but it would, Patrick, and correct me if this is wrong, but the sales tax amount in the TIF is not necessarily set for the duration of the TIF. It would fluctuate up and down based on the actual sales tax collected. So if we go from
lower it,
1.75 to 1.5, it would take longer to pay
it will
off
take
that.
longer for the TIF to get paid
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if that matters, but it would probably affect it.
I'd
in
have to
some way.
look, I'd have to dig into that a little bit, because there's a property tax element to that too, so it might not be as big an impact on that TIF as you might think.
And I think it also is, you know, it's so dependent on sale. We don't know how their sales are now compared to how it was modeled, and
Yeah.
And is
yeah.
that sales tax portion only on their sales tax,
It's,
or is it
it's,
citywide?
it's on the city's sales tax.
the city's portion of sales tax generated by
By
Harps
Harps.
Generated by.
By Harps only.
that they
Yes.
capture.
So it is
in
on the
state.
harps.
Yes.
only.
Just Harps, yeah, yeah.
But with that being said, Mayor, I also like the idea of making it look like we're lowering something if we can. If we can financially do it and it's not affecting the outcome of a lot of direct, impacts that we have on our budget, then, it does look nice to be able to lower things every now and then. But I could go either way.
Okay. You want to comment, Rob?
I want to lower it. I like seeing it lowered, that debt service fund can handle it. The only thing that I'm looking at, it's the 1.65 million is what would not be collected, which would be a 91st Street renovation, and there's enough comments about like 83rd and Kill Creek, Lexington and Penner, other projects that could fund that the community would like to see done.
Yeah, it's a
And
good point.
And it's more things the community would like to see done, which is what this is for, is the capital improvements. But again, I see where lowering it would be great. The debt service fund can handle it, it's just, what are we giving up?
We're giving up a project, you're
We're
right, I
giving
mean,
up-
that's.
We're giving up a fairly substantial project,
Mhm.
is the only thing that kind of makes me go, and there's projects that the community says we need. So it's a matter of weighing the balance of a project like a 91st Street versus lowering. And so I think if I had to vote tonight, it'd be to go with 1.5 cent, but that's my reservation with it.
Okay. I'll keep the same order. Kevin, Hannah, Michael?
All right, I can anticipate our speaking order. There is a lot of interest in whatever lowering taxes, but generally the most palatable tax to people is sales tax. People hate property tax. People really don't like income tax. Generally, people are okay with sales tax. The benefit, and we don't have a lot of visitors per se. It's not like, the Legends in Wyandotte County or something like that, but it is income to the city that's paid by people who don't necessarily just live here, whereas a property tax does. So I think certainly if we talk about the ramification of not renewing the sales tax, that it becomes, a need to be borne by property tax. I think that makes the either or argument pretty clear. I skew towards Rob's comment that, it is a scenario, it is a source of funding for infrastructure, and people also like infrastructure. I think that I got a couple questions. I skew towards going with the 3/4, even though it would be great to make the argument to lower it. Is the modeling that's done in these based on the retail sales tax growth that is modeled in Mike's budget, or is it based on today's sales tax, retail sales, and therefore sales tax collection?
It's based on the projections. These graphs come directly out of it. So I've kind of taken his projections as of early February and tinkered with the numbers so that they would, we'd see a reduction in sales tax in one scenario and a flat one in another, and then a complete reduction of it in the third scenario.
Yeah, this comes out of that same spreadsheet. It's the same projections that
And
we spent a lot of time
to be conservative, if you want to call it, maybe a little pessimistic, if you want to say that, on our sales tax collection growth, maybe relative to what we've been experiencing, the trajectory that we've been experiencing, even though that's been fairly consistent. I'm looking at the Siri retail sales revenue for DeSoto so far this year, and it's creeping up again. So I think if we do go to a 0.5%, we've got the idea that our retail sales revenue has been growing faster than we've been expecting. So it may play out a little bit better. But then again, people like that part. Other question relates to Lori's comment about HARPS and the TIF. I wasn't familiar with how that's structured. So it does obviously have a sales tax component to the TIF. So they're collecting the city's portion for their sales. I think that's an argument for why we need to think about the use of CID going forward rather than TIF for that part where we can raise funds, because then you can apply a sales tax increment that's above and beyond the city's part to that district. Therefore, it's not harmed when some decision like this gets made. So, in particular, if we do look at a situation where we've got a retail district coming forward and they're looking for an incentive, we can say, well, your incentive is to tax yourself, a 1/4 cent or 0.5 cent or something like that. It locks it into that, and you're only taxing the users of that facility. You're not taking it away from the city. So I guess it really wasn't a question as much as it was a statement for how we might want to think about handling those going forward. Long way around to saying I would probably skew towards the 3/4, but certainly the model for the 1/2 works. I'm on the fence.
Okay. Thank you. Kevin Ritter?
At this point, I'm more for the 3/4 than I am the 1/2. I think there's so many projects that need to be completed. So many of our roads that are in terrible condition. So I would like to see us continue to raise the same amount of money and do as much work as we can with it.
All
That's all
right.
I have. The rest has been said. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Danny?
Yeah, I'm off the fence, Mayor, so I'm 1 3/4 sides, so keeping it like it is. And I think it will benefit us and the people and everything far beyond other reasons. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. So what I heard was more of a consensus toward the 3/4. That was my take on it.
I'm comfortable with that as well.
So if we're there, then what would we do tonight? Just provide you direction to bring back the resolution at 3/4 and we can consider that, is that right?
Yep, that's right, that's right. I think the only other nuance is that the pledge, what the revenues are for. Initially, and when it was renewed, it was meat and potatoes, CIP, streets, sewer, roads, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
My recommendation would be to stick with that.
Yeah.
Let's don't put parks and
Nope.
other stuff, let's just stick. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's it. And-
Yeah, that's all we need. So Patrick and I will get with the Johnson County Elections Office and get this ball rolling. So, like I said, Patrick and I were working on getting ballot language to the county for their approval. And we're hopefully if they respond to the emails that we sent yesterday, we'll be able to have something for you on the 3rd.
Okay, very good.
Good.
Item 4C, discuss base grant applications.
Yes, council. The base grant is the state announced this at the first of the month. It came out of the Spark Executive Committee at the state, and it's using the COVID relief fund. State got more than $1 billion in funding COVID relief, and that was early on last year. They've been trying to figure out how to distribute those funds. They've got a program now. It's $100 million to distribute for grants that support economic development. And one of the driving principles behind it is that this may have been economic development that was somehow impacted or delayed by COVID. So there's sort of a COVID tie-in, which might be kind of hard to craft with some of the stuff that we're looking at. But the application portal, it's a pretty simple sort of application to get your project through there. It's a web-based process. I did provide a link there in the staff report. You can see the types of projects that are eligible. It's a kind of a wide array of projects. Also, interestingly, local governments, nonprofits, and developers can submit for base grant funding too. So they've kind of opened this up to the private side. With the economic development opportunities that lie in front of us in the Southwest growth area, there's plenty of opportunity to submit applications. Each entity can submit up to 3 applications, so we could choose 1, 2, or 3 applications to submit. The map and cost estimates that were attached to the staff report kind of lay out the universe of public improvements that we have shown and contemplated, for a number of years to support kind of all of the Southwest growth area, but specifically the Flint property, the Sunflower property, and I've also identified the Clearview City area as well, because one of the things that the base grant points to is workforce housing that might provide housing for a jobs attractor, and that's a pretty clear tie-in to that. So just wanted to have a discussion. Actually, I'm going to eventually ask for your approval to authorize me to submit base grant applications on behalf of the city. The only caveat that they do come with a required 25% local match. In our case, if you see all these infrastructure that's on the screen now, the sewer infrastructure, the roads, the water, it's about $56 million worth of infrastructure there. The maximum grant that the base grant will allow is $25 million, but they've only got $100 million to dole out statewide, and I think it's really unlikely that they're going to give any one entity anywhere close to $25 million. That's just a guess. Certainly, we can ask for it, but I think it's more likely that they'll they'll take a look at the overall needs and assign a smaller number to us. I've had this discussion with representatives of the Department of Commerce who have been engaged with us in economic development pursuits on all of these areas, really. And they're very tuned in to our needs and our desires and think that we have a very strong proposal to get a significant amount of money to help augment these efforts. One thing to note about all of this is that through the development agreements with Flint and with Sunflower Redevelopment, all of these projects theoretically are funded without a dime of city general fund money being involved. So the road and the sewers for Flint is, we have take-or-pay agreements for the sewer infrastructure so that we have revenue stream for that. They want a benefit district, Edgerton Road, so there's a benefit district special assessment that would pay for that. The other stuff related more to Sunflower and maybe to Clearview is Lexington Avenue and 103rd Street. TIF revenues from Sunflower contemplated to pay for those improvements, as are the sewer improvements to there and the water improvements. That's all TIF eligible stuff, and the scale of what's possible there looks like would have plenty of revenues to fund all that. But any amount we can get from a grant would improve those chances and obviously help the economic position of all the developments out there. So what I was inclined to do is identify a project that supports all three areas. And the obvious one is the sewer. So the real obvious one is the sewer main along the Sunflower Road, because everybody ties into that and everybody uses that. Right now in the pro formas between kind of all of the development agreements that we have, there's mechanisms to pay for that improvement from Sunflower alone if Flint doesn't move forward, and vice versa. We wanted to make sure that the arrangements that we have in place would allow one to stand on, allow them each to stand on their own without being interdependent. So that is in place. But with the sewer improvement, it really looks like from a case from the Spark or from the base grant committee, who's ever reviewing these things, a strong case could be made for the sewer line up Sunflower Road, possibly all three pump stations and the force mains associated with those pump stations. I think that's a pretty easy one that that really opens up all of this area and it benefits all three. The other ones that benefit all three is Lexington. I mean, if we're shooting big, Lexington Avenue down to 100, and then 103rd, and then 103rd all the way out to Evening Star Road. That whole corridor also benefits all three. That would be, something like a $20 or $30 million project. Obviously we could submit that as a separate project and only ask for a small amount of base funding to be supplemented by a large amount of local match. Did have a conversation with the Sunflower folks, and because private developers are allowed to submit, they are planning to submit for their infrastructure internal to their site. So depending on our conversation and depending how some other conversations go with Flint and others, they may want to submit for the sewer line that runs up and serves their site and some of these water mains on site. Flint might also, I haven't had any conversations with Flint, but they might also want to submit for some funding too. So in general, I just wanted to get your approval. Now, so local, in terms of local match, in terms of what we're obligating, you're obligating me to spend all next week making these grant applications, which is kind of what I've got blocked out to do because they're due at the end of the month. But we're also obligating any sort of local matching funds. Now, it's not, if we're awarded this, there'll be follow-on agreements and approvals, and we'll come to you with specifics on all this. So we're not technically obligating any city funds at this point, at the grant application point. But in the end, my hope is that there won't be any actual city funds involved at all. All the matching funds will be either through the TIF reimbursement or benefit district or some other developer contribution. So I think it's a pretty, it's a good stance, you know, it's a good situation. I think we're very likely to get some money out of this. It just kind of, the question becomes, how much do we ask for? How many projects do we select? And how do we want to go about it? So I guess I'll leave it to you for input. I did want, before I forget, I wanted to mention that I've had 2 requests already from, for letters of support from the city. From Dustin Baker at Alcove Development. He's asking, he's going to apply for some base grant funding for the commercial building there on Lexington and Golden Lane that was recently approved. So he's going to ask for some base grant funding for that. He asked for a letter of support from the city. And then from Lakeview Heights, they're also asking for a letter of support from the city to increase some housing density there. I'm inclined to give those to anybody who asks, you know, if they do have a legitimate project that we've seen, I'm inclined to give those. So if you have any thoughts about that, let me know about that too. So I'll stop there and let's answer any questions or have some dialogue on this.
How about Clearview City? Are they submitting any applications for the sewer project that they been going on?
Yeah,
there?
well, certainly they're tuned in to the base grant application process, and I'll have these discussions with them too.
Okay.
You know, I know that we're talking with them about some gap in their performance and some, you know, some possible help from the city. You know, if we get this base grant for sewers, you know, I think some of that could be applied to their situation.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
think it's a good idea, and I like doing the main sewer, you know, the base sewer part there. I think it's a good application to do. As far as doing another one for roads or something, you know, like you say, there's a lot of them. A lot of grants, I'm sure, will be put in across the state, but if you know, I don't want to have you spend a lot of time on one that we're not going to be able to. I don't want you to waste time on it, but yet if there's any kind of chance to get some help on some of those, I think it's a worthy cause to do it for. So,
What's the cost on the sewer one, main sewer, for that total project?
Well, it kind of depends on what we're doing. So if you look at,
I mean, if you take it, the Sunflower and the Flint and the Sunflower property, Sunflower Road, Sunflower property, Flint.
yeah, so I have them broken out a little bit differently on this chart, but the line within the Sunflower corridor is about $3 million. So this orange line in this corridor here, about $3 million. And then the way I've got these broken out is while the orange stuff here is one line item, it's 4.6 million. The light blue stuff is another line item, 2.2. It's right over 2 million. So I might break those. Is this making sense to you, Rob? Is it,
I think so. So is it that 11,962?
that's everything you
would
see
be-
on the screen
would
right
be-
there.
Would be all of the sewer stuff.
That's everything, yeah. And so, as I said, Sunflower might want to submit for this gravity sewer up on their side. Flint might want to do the same as well.
Would you try and coordinate that with them then?
Yeah,
if they're
certainly.
gonna do
Yeah, that's what we're doing, yep. But yeah, everything you see there is 11.9, almost 12 million. And it'd be appropriate for us to submit this too. It wouldn't be inappropriate for the city to submit for all of
Same as the
that
developer.
as one project, yeah.
do you think if you're submitting it in kind of the format that you're showing us, that it's possible that they would say, okay, well, we're just going to do one section of this as far as grant, that
Yeah,
instead of saying, yeah, we're going to allow this whole huge amount, we'll help with this section of it, or, you know, is it possible if you're doing it that it's kind of, would you submit it kind of separated like this also and maybe prioritized what is the most important phase of this obviously would be the,
yeah, you kind of get
Or
into
not.
strategy and scenarios, you know.
Yeah.
trying to get into the mind of people who are reviewing, to put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
I think projects that benefit more than one area are gonna go right to the top of the list. And so I think the 3 pump stations and that main that they tie into, I think it lays a good argument that, hey, this is what we're gonna take to develop this entire area. And we're
Right.
not picking winners and losers. This is the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, they might look at it, you know, and maybe let's just say for discussion that that's $6 million maybe. We've got it broken out somewhere else, but if that's $6 million, they might, you know, okay, we'll give you half of that or something,
Yeah.
some of that along
Yeah.
that nature.
Gotcha.
If we show $30 million worth of road improvements, they might say, you know, you can have a couple million, but that's it, and that'd be fine. You know,
Yeah.
that'd be fine.
Okay.
I guess there's no track record to go off of. There's not a whole lot of guidance on what they're gonna be looking
Yeah.
for.
Right.
They do not have a lot of time to,
And not a lot of time to strategize, yeah.
I mean, they have to,
Because they turn it on around, how fast do they?
this stuff needs to be spent here in a couple years, right? I mean,
A couple of years.
so they don't have time to sit
So they're
on
gonna
it.
be awarding it
Yeah,
fairly quick.
Right.
okay.
Yeah, I don't remember what they.
My opinion would be all of the sewers and maybe part or sections of the road.
D Flint, C. Have to be careful, I can never remember exactly what, because Flint, the road, do you think they'll put anything in as far as because they're responsible for the road,
They're responsible
Certainly.
for it.
Yeah.
so they
I-
may do that too,
I just haven't had that discussion with
Okay.
them, but they might.
it might be, but you haven't
I guess
discussed it with
that's
Flint
also
at
one of
all.
the strategies of, if the developer puts it in and the city, does that help the priority of it?
If we kind of go joint together, and that's another good question.
I mean, if,
We're just,
if multiple people are asking for the same thing,
yeah, yeah. Well, we're gonna try to avoid overlap.
yeah.
You know, but yeah, if, of course, whatever we do, I'm gonna ask for a letter of support from them, and if they do anything, they're gonna ask the same of me. But yeah, that's a good point.
I would think the city would have better chance of getting funding than the developer for a project.
For
Be-
roads and sewers.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the developer obviously they're looking to do it no matter what. We, on the other hand, the money is coming from, you know, for the city to come up with the money is a little bit different, so. I don't think I have anything else.
All right. I guess I like the sewer thought, projects. Especially with the way we're talking about funding Flint with the take or pay, I mean, that would take bonding responsibility off of us if we were able to get
Yeah.
grant money for that.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah.
The roads, if we don't get the roads, those are funded through the developer TIFs, so they're not really directly impacting us, but I think the sewer should be our focus just for that.
Is the water the same?
Yeah.
So sewers and then even the
Well,
water?
the water on Flint is, the water on Sunflower is TIF with
That's
the
true.
Sunflower thing.
Yeah.
And sewer as well.
I would also encourage, I think we need to encourage Clearview to submit some sort of, because I know I saw their last email looked like they were kind of counting on us to put an application together, which we are for
Yeah.
some part of it, but I think they need to put an application in as well for that stuff that they're doing on site.
Mhm.
Don't put it all your eggs in our basket, see what you can get on.
I think it'd be a good look if we submit this, so we got 3 development areas
And
and
this is
they
one,
have
yeah.
applications from.
Playing into
From those 3, right.
Yeah.
Questions from the folks online, or comments, anybody? Kevin Harmichael.
Yeah, couple thoughts. I totally agree with the sewer, objective. I guess my thought is that for those, if when we coordinate the entities, if the city takes the lead, I think that's gonna be a better look in terms of the allocation and implementation of the money. If the city takes the lead in the application with the strong support of the private entity, showing their, if, associated with this would be X number of millions of dollars of private investment that this would generate, because economic development is a big part. So you can show that it's already teed right up and it's ultimately going to be public infrastructure. I had an exchange with Mike today on this. And it comes down to Mike's workload. I would recommend, my suggestion is to go with 3 applications. We can get 3 applications. I would suggest that we go with 3 that are independent of each other and not reliant upon each other. Just to maximize our opportunity and to minimize the dollar value of any one application. They're going to have scads of applications, and they're going to be looking to do the most good. It would really surprise me if they partially fund a grant application. I think you're going to be in or you're going to be out. My opinion. I don't know how the selection on this is going to work, but just from when you see some of these things in the past, I think if we look at that Sunflower Corridor as an artery that serves a lot, that's a manageable number at 3 million. Mike, in our brief exchange today, you thought that $4 or $5 million bogey is probably a palatable one. If we go in there at $11, $12 million on an application, we may get the whole thing kicked out just because we can't go that. We can't spread the peanut butter. We got to spread the peanut butter around, and that's too big of a glob. I think that certainly the pump station 1 line, the pump station 2 line, augment the Sunflower Corridor. But if the city were to include as one of the 3 the sewer part of Clearview, that one comes with a lot of community good that you can highlight, that we're getting rid of an open lagoon, an open sewage lagoon that's a public nuisance, public health hazard. I mean, that's going to appeal in a lot of ways, certainly the workforce housing support, but also the community benefit from that. And then it sort of helps that project in a side way. I think if we get funding on any of these that was otherwise contemplated to be part of one of these agreements, we're going back and reallocating how those incentives get applied because it benefits the project. And like you said, Mike, ultimately, it's not going to be an out-of-pocket for the city. It's just going to be a shuffling of funds that had been allocated. But Mike, it's about you and your workload over the next week. If you're going to do 3 applications, my recommendation is 3 smaller applications that are standalone, that don't depend on each other. But any one of the 3 would do us good, because one may spark the interest a little bit more of a selection committee than the other. But do you have the time to compile everything for 3 versus putting one together that could be have more of your energy focused on it? And be more polished, more complete, and get that one funded. That's kind of up to you and your workload. But my suggestion is to go for 3.
Okay.
So with that being said, when you're looking at the 3 different sewer ones, the Sunflower Corridor would be a number 1 one. And then if we looked at Flint, because that would benefit us as far as not bonding, as you said, Rick, correct? And then the Clearview City one, if Sunflower would be submitting theirs themselves, that could get all of them submitted at least, but as 4 separate grants. Is that kind of what you're talking about, Kevin?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, because Sunflower could submit for the whole, the whole PS2, like I said, Mike, building up to pump station 2, and even if force main doesn't get paid for in this, then you still knock a substantial cost off of that pump station if you throw it on their application. I just feel like that, figuring out how to roll that Clearview City one in there just it checks a lot of community benefit boxes in an application that other ones won't.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. The other thing, You know, we don't, 25% match is required, and I don't know how much weight the selection will be based on, you know, if we have a $10 million road project and we only ask for $1 million in base grant funding. So, you know, if the local match is significant, I don't know how that'll factor into the appetite as well in terms of leveraging the dollars they have. So that's another thing to think about. You know, the roads are almost as good as the sewer in terms of, you know, look at, you know, this one road can help all three developments, but it's a great big price tag. And if we just apply for make it an application, but only apply for a modest amount of base grant funding, that might work too.
But don't you have KDOT as another avenue to go get road money?
No, I wouldn't count on it.
Not for economic development
Yeah.
initiatives?
Yeah,
We don't really have another source to go get sewer money.
well, that's true.
But if
Yeah.
we don't for roads either, then so be it.
Yeah.
Because KDOT would be interchanges mostly, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you know, KDOT's expressed a lot of support for some economic development pursuits we've been looking at, and has pledged, you know, at least verbally, some significant amount of money, but all of that was contemplated as on system. So it's just, yeah, on K10 or the off-ramps, not building streets from there down into the, they haven't really made that commitment ever. But they do have that economic development grant process that we could search out, but that's a separate and apart from this.
Kevin Ritter, comments?
It's been something that's talked about, I'm not gonna repeat a lot of it, but I do agree with, Kevin in going for several. And Mike, I do like the idea of tying in the contractors as well, because the grant processes I've been with, if you can tie them into regional with more folks that are gonna be benefited from it, they score higher typically, from the government entities. And I will state that, you know, Kevin, I know that you said something about maybe they wouldn't fund a piece of a grant. We applied for a grant across the river for 20 sets of gear, not knowing that the Kansas State Fire Marshal's office only had $100,000, which that would have took up about half of it. So they did fund one piece of gear for us. So that they do make smaller contributions, but they are rare. But the regional ones tend to do better in the scoring in my past history.
Thank you. Danny, any thoughts or comments, questions?
I really appreciate Kevin's comments on that. Mike, I want to express the sunflower, highlight that, and go for 3. And so that's the direction I'm going, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Danny.
Okay, yeah, I
You
think
can't
we
go
can-
wrong, Mike, just put something together.
Got it. Yeah, no worries.
Essentially.
You know,
So,
yeah. I know.
Do you need any kind of, because these have to be done by the end of the month, and so we're not, do you need any kind of motion authorizing?
Yeah, you know,
It wouldn't be bad to have that in the record, that
So
we
what-
support the base grant application, right?
Yeah.
So just, I make a motion that we support the city administrator in his applications for the base grants.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries.
good, thank you, council. I'll keep you updated on the direction we head. There's discussions to be had, so.
All right.
Thanks for the input, that's very helpful.
Advisory reports. Mike, carry on.
It snowed a lot today. Yeah, the street department crew's been working very hard. This is a difficult one. You know, we have I think, as you guys have noticed, I think they did a great job, so, just kudos to them and thanks to them, and thanks to Jay for coming in and getting us walks cleared here around the building. You did a great job with that. Other than that, I'll answer any questions you have. I don't have anything else.
All right. Anybody got a question for Mike? He's open.
Not yet.
All right.
Keep that open until the end of the meeting.
Okay. City Attorney, Patrick, do you have anything for us tonight?
Nothing, thank you, Mayor.
All right. City Clerk,
No report.
no report. Council comments. We'll go in reverse order. Danny, anything for the group tonight?
Nothing, Mayor, thank you.
All right. Kevin Ritter,
Nothing from me, Mayor, thanks.
Kevin Hanemichael,
No, sir.
Rob,
Nope.
Lori?
Well, I'm gonna break
There we
that
go.
string. Not that I feel like our staff doesn't have things to do, but I just want to bring up a couple of things. I was going through my strategic plan notes that we had gotten back and just kind of looking at them, which of course causes me to go pull out my folder from the last strategic plan and say, okay, what was I supposed to do last time that I have not gotten done yet? And coincidentally, a couple of the things that were kind of on my watch, there's been things happening in other places in the state. So I was hoping that maybe I could get some help from Brandon or maybe Whitney in looking into these things for me. In one of the last League of Kansas Government Journal little magazines that we get, which I actually do look at, in Osawatomie, they did a healthy rental homes program was established. And I think that was one of the things that we had talked about at one point in time is, do we bring back a rental inspection safety type program, which I'm kind of in favor of more on the safety side of it, making sure that people in our community have heat all winter and, not broken windows and stuff. And so I was wondering if maybe we could look into what they did instead of having to recreate things and see if it's something that we might be able to compare to what we've done in the past and kind of mimic something like that. And so again, that was at Osawatomie, and I figured city clerks kind of probably surely share some of that stuff with each other.
Oh, they're a tight-knit group, aren't they, Brandon?
I'll reach out.
Then the other one that I was on is Kevin Hanemichael and I were kind of, along with the incentive policies, kind of in charge of kind of a little bit of more information on downtown and properties available and what about a land bank. I'm still kind of interested. I haven't heard lately what's going on with the old Weller building. I don't know whatever happened with that down there. If anybody knows, I'd like to know that. But in Winfield, Kansas, they created a land bank. And so again, they did it to help provide opportunities for land development, clear up titles, set aside for future land development, blah, blah, blah. So again, I thought, well, maybe if we could kind of look at Winfield and say, hey, Winfield, what did you do with this land bank? Because we've talked about it, wondering if we can do it. What's, all about that. So obviously, these are things that we've been talking about doing for a while on both of them, and not hurry, you got to get done in the next month, but maybe some things we can just start to get information about. If not for the whole group, at least for me. And I figured it might be easier for you guys to do that than for me. Because now in my spare time, I play with babies and stuff, doing all this stuff.
Pittsburgh, Kansas has done a land bank and actually did presentations on it at the annual meeting. So in addition to Winfield, Pittsburgh would probably be a good one to reach out to.
Leavenworth just did one too. I believe the person that's in charge of it's still there. She's getting close to retirement. I'll reach out and see if they have something too.
Yeah, just kind of some guidelines on, so we're not recreating things that would be easier just to kind of follow up on. So then the last little piece of something that I'd like to get taken care of, if possible, this year, if it's agreeable or not. I'm just throwing this out, and we don't even have to make a decision tonight. Just kind of I want people to think about it. And that is this wonderful scout house that we have in DeSoto. And I know I keep bringing this back and coming up with different things, but that's only because I've been in charge of it now for the last way too long. And it's way too expensive for a building that is not being used really for a trust to be taken care of. So basically the Scout House is a trust. Funding comes from nowhere except for where we go find it at, but yet I have expenses to pay on it. And it was deeded to the youth of DeSoto, put in a trust, which was great and fine when it was DeSoto Bank could handle the trust and it was no big deal, but now it's with Bank of America. And I paid almost $500 on liability insurance on this thing this year. And I just can't keep going forward with this, it just doesn't financially balance out. So what I would like to suggest, if it would be feasible with the city, is to somehow get that thing into the city's hands. So at least stuff like the liability policy isn't a big deal. That's really the big financial burden. There's gas to it, and yeah, the gas bill gets high in the winter. AA uses it, and the Scouts store things in it. The Scouts do not use it for meetings, but AA does every week or twice a week, however many times they meet. But they give me money to help support some of that. So there's a lot of legal stuff that would have to get on. I probably would need Patrick to help me. I know, Patrick, you've seen all of this paperwork, but basically if the Scout House fails to exist, or if it fails to be able to keep doing what it's doing, it would fall into the hands of this Heart of America Council, which is the Scout. So what I was hoping we could do is kind of try to have a conversation with them saying, can we default this to you and then, or quick deed it to the Heart of America, and then they would deed it back to the city somehow. That's the process that I would hope maybe could be done, Patrick, where it goes from the trust to the Heart of America Council, and I doubt if they would want it for anything, that they would turn around and give it back to the city, and the city can figure out an easy process of letting the same things happen in it, just like we have rental agreement with what we do in the city hall, do the same sort of thing. The expenses are not that big of a deal. It's probably a total of maybe $1,500, not even that, probably a year, aside from the taxes, but from the insurance. But this insurance is starting to get where, it's too much for a building like that. So that's where I'm at on that. I'd like to see if the city would take it over, if we can figure it out legally.
I wonder
with
if that could tie into the land bank idea. Isn't that kind of what the land bank?
Possibility, but a land bank I would think would be more of a temporary holding spot for something that's going to go to development or redevelopment or something. And I don't know if the building itself was to not be there or to get sold for some other purpose or totally taken away from the Scouts, the big issue would be storage of what's in there for the Scouts. The rest, and a place for AA to meet, which I'm sure could be done. But assuming we want to just keep it how it is and running how it is, only a different owner, that would be my thoughts. But, welcome for anybody else to kind of think about that, come up with ideas, and see if there's anything else anybody else would want to do. But it's just
Yeah,
not.
Lauren, I'm happy to help with that.
Okay, thank you, Patrick.
Yep.
Would anybody be against it in any way, or would the city itself be against it being a part of the city instead if we could get it done?
I have no objections. I think it's great, Lori.
Yeah, I have none either. I'd be happy to see it come in and be used. And if it wasn't a possibility, is this something that would they be able to come out, or not specifically you, but somebody from your organization be able to come and ask for some of the money that we have available for donations to pay the funds for this year?
Well, our donation policy is really kind of set up so that it's not, I've done that once before, but it's not really meant to be, what's the wording I want to say? running a, God, I can't think of it, just your regular common everyday bills that it comes out of it. You know, if I was coming and asking for a new roof or something, that would be a project, but
Operating.
just the
expense.
operating, there we go, thank you, Mike. The operating expenses is not supposed to be what we're asking for from that relief fund, so.
Well, I would be in favor either way, keeping it in good shape until it can be transferred, so.
Yeah.
That was my.
Okay.
With that, that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, I
Thank you.
didn't hear any objection from anyone. So. I don't think I have anything tonight, so.
Well, then I will make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
All right, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, we are adjourned.
This conference is no longer being recorded.